What's up, fragrant world? Welcome back to another Stay Fresh production. My name is JC. This channel is called Stay Fresh Productions, and here we talk about everything fragrance. If you like that kind of content, or maybe you at least have an interest in it, maybe you're just diving in, please consider subscribing. Come back, hit that bell. You get notified every time I drop a video, so you can easily make it back here and see what we got going on in terms of fragrance content. Now, every now and then I like to do these list videos where we talk about, a list of fragrances within a genre or a theme. Sometimes we like to do videos talking about, discussions, like various critical topics in the world of fragrance. Today we're kind of doing a mashup of the two. I've prepared a theme around a discussion that hopefully won't take too much of your time. Today we're talking about the distinction, if there is one, between timeless fragrances and dated / vintage / old school, whatever you want to call it. So first we got to define a couple things here. Now, what is a dated or vintage fragrance? For the sake of simplicity, most people would classify it as something that smells like it came out a while back. And usually it did come out a while back. So for instance, I got a fragrance here from Davidoff. This is called Zino. I believe this came out in 1988. And there's a big reason why people would say this smells dated. Why they would say it smelled like it came out in the 80s. A lot of it has to do with, at least in my little opinion, our associations. Our associations are so powerful. They are so strong. Everything that we experience in life that becomes a memory is usually tied to a person or a place, right? Those are very powerful elements in our existence. Now, scent being one of the most powerful senses that we have, again, tied to our limbic system, which is tied to memory. If you've smelled anyone in your life who smells anything like this kind of scent profile, then automatically you're going to associate that with smelling dated, smelling old, smelling, out of style, smelling old fashioned, whatever it may be. Not necessarily because of the way that this is composed or the ingredients. The ingredients that go into fragrances haven't changed all that much over the last several decades. We've definitely come up with a whole lot more aroma chemicals, so more synthetic ingredients to either mimic an ingredient that we once could get in nature but can no longer do, or to make a combination of ingredients like a hybrid that we can't naturally find out in nature, or to create something new altogether. We see a lot more of that these days, but in terms of the natural raw materials, we're using a lot of the same ones because they come from nature. We're dealing with patchouli, or we're dealing with flowers like lavender and iris and rose, or we're dealing with herbs like basil or, rosemary or spices. All those things have been on this earth for a long time, and generally longer than we have. So it's not the fact that we put all those, you reproportion those ingredients and now all of a sudden it smells old. It's the fact that we associate it with people that came before us or that are older than us. And again, this is just my opinion. So that is kind of what I mean by dated. And I'm trying to say that it's kind of a fallacy. It is not absolute. It is not objective. If you had no reference point, say you had never smelled anyone wearing a fragrance that came out in the 80s, then if you smelled Zino, you'd be like, okay, yeah, it smells like a fragrance. You'd have no reference point to say like, oh yeah, this reminds me of this, or this smells old, or this smells like fragrances that came out before me. So in that way, it becomes arbitrary if you really think about it. Now, an example of a modern or contemporary fragrance that is definitely not dated, but may not necessarily be timeless either, something like Prada Luna Rossa Carbon. This fragrance is a trend rider. Let's just be real. It's riding a wave of a trend which was started by Dior Sauvage, many fragrances that follow suit, and in 10 years, you could still wear this, but it's not gonna smell quite as modern. What will modern be at that time? Who knows? Right now, everything is blue, fresh, and clean in terms of the designer market. That will change. Who knows what direction that'll go in. This was created to make money right now. That's why Prada made this fragrance, because right now they knew people like the scent profile. It's selling well, so they capitalize on it. Now, it's not meant to be timeless, like I said. So now we're gonna shift gears here and get more towards what is a timeless fragrance. This might be a little bit harder to describe. In my opinion, a timeless fragrance is one that does not necessarily need to be tied to any particular time period based on association. If you smell this scent, you would not immediately know when it could have been released. It could have come out yesterday, it could have came out 60 years ago. There's something about the way it's constructed, the scent profile, the fact that it's not really following any trends, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second, that makes it timeless. It makes it kind of almost frozen in time, but not attached to any particular era. So not easy to do. And there's a number of fragrances that could belong in this category. And when I came to trying to pick some, I found it very hard. I'm like, man, I could have picked a lot, but I want to keep this relatively short. So I only picked a handful. We're going to talk about them here. All right, a couple examples, just in my opinion, of some timeless fragrances. First one up, from the house of Creed. I could have picked another one, which would be Aventus. I do think Aventus is a timeless scent. It's very unique. Nothing really smelled like it before it came out, and everyone has tried to copy it since. And you know, just the DNA of it, it is very versatile. It has a classiness to it. It has an elegance, but it also has a very casual nature to it. It's very accessible. Anyone could really wear this if you like the scent profile, and there's just a lot of likable elements about the scent. But I decided not to go with Aventus just because it's kind of a given. I decided to go with this one mainly because of when it came out. Silver Mountain Water. This fragrance astounds me. The reason is it came out, I think, in 1995 or 96, one of the two. And if you smelled it, you would have no idea that it came out in the 1990s. A fragrance that came out around the same year is Tommy for Men, one of my favorites. Now, in my opinion, this fragrance is still fairly modern. You can get away with it, but a lot of us have associations with this scent. And many people would say, no, this isn't really timeless. You smell this and you're like, yeah, I can easily tie that to the 1990s. So for that reason, I wouldn't really say this is timeless, even though you could get away with it now. But Silver Mountain Water, this one, it doesn't smell like it came out in any particular time period. It's fresh, clean, metallic, musky, has a little bit of a fruity quality to it, a nice cooling, like calming tea note in there. It's such, again, it's unique. Nothing smelled like this before. Nothing has directly copied it 100% since it came out. So in my opinion, this is a timeless scent. In 20, 30, 40, 50 years, this is still gonna be something you can wear, and it doesn't smell like it came out before. It smells like it's just moving with time. You know what I mean? Timeless. Now here is a very special example here. This fragrance came out 1988. If I'm not mistaken, the same year as Davidoff Zino. However, at least for me, maybe again, this is the associative issue at work, perhaps. But even beyond that, I think if we're really just gonna look at scent profile, for me, this does not smell dated at all. This is Dior Fahrenheit. Again, came out in 1988, same year as Zino. But the scent profile, again, nothing smelled like this before this came out. Nothing since has directly copied it. You've had a few fragrances that have come close. I think Ferrari Uomo, that's one that came close. There's a few others out there that are reminiscent, using a similar, note structure, heavy on the violet leaf here. But in my opinion, timeless. To me, Dior Fahrenheit does not smell like it came out in 1988. This smells like something Dior could release today. This smells like something they could release 20 years from now. It does not smell like it's tied to a particular time, just solely based on the scent profile. Now, if you have associations with this in the 1980s, late 80s, early 90s, then yeah, this is gonna smell dated to you. But if you don't, I just think this is a purely timeless scent, just based on the structure of it. So there's Dior Fahrenheit. Here's another one. This is a fantastic example, another one in the niche realm. And niche, I feel like, has a better chance of being timeless. Even now, most of them are not trying to ride trends, at least the ones outside of mainstream. And this is an example of that. I had no idea this came out in 1998 or something. This came out in the 1990s once again. And you would have never known unless you looked it up. From Diptyque, this is Felocicos. Absolutely timeless fragrance. It is very specific. It is going for recreating the scent of the fig tree. You get the fig leaves in there, the greenness of the fig leaves. You get the woodiness of the branches. You get the fruit in there. It has a bit of a tropical coconut accord in there. And it's just very fresh. And nothing about this smells like the 1990s. This could have came out this year, to be honest. Again, absolutely timeless. I don't know how many people were really wearing this in the 1990s, unless you have an association with a family member or someone wearing Felocicos back then maybe this would be dated to you, but I kind of doubt it. Again, timeless scent. Okay, we got another 90s scent that to some could smell dated, I think based on association, but for me, the scent profile of this is absolutely timeless. Perfumed by Jean-Claude Helena. From Cartier, we have Declaration. Man, I wore this today. This stuff is just so classy, so elegant. It has a nice casual refinement to it, but it does have an elegance. Beautifully spicy with the fresh cooling cardamom in there, nice woody vetiver. There's some florals in the heart that kind of round it out, make it smooth, maybe a little creamy in there. There's a nice freshness to it. You got some citruses in here, bitter orange plays a major role. In my opinion, this is timeless stuff. This could have come out this year. They do have an updated parfum version, which I have not smelled, which I will smell as soon as I can. But in my opinion, this is timeless stuff. This is stuff you can wear decades from now, and it's still going to serve its purpose. Okay, in my opinion, this is a modern classic. This is going to be a timeless fragrance. Its scent profile is very mass appealing, but at the same time was unique. Nothing was really smelling like this before it came out, and it's still proving to this day that it is not going out of style anytime soon, and I think it's going to be the case for a while. And this might surprise you, but I've always thought, man, this is timeless. Dolce Gabbana The One. This is a timeless DNA. It's both fresh and dark. You got ginger, there's tobacco. It's sweet. So you could wear this in 20 years and it's gonna be great. They might have more flankers by that time to choose from, but I think the original, especially the eau de parfum, even the eau de toilette is fine. How many times am I gonna say timeless in this video? A lot. I'm gonna say it again. This is a timeless DNA. And the last one up here, Dior is getting some more representation. I think they, in terms of the designer market, they have been, at least for most of their time, at the forefront of creating timeless, classic fragrances that will stand the test of time. That's a very simple way we can define timeless. This is one of them. Broke every trend out there. Still blazing the trail. I don't think it's the best seller for them. I don't think the line did super well, but it did well enough for them to spawn some flankers and to redo it. But you already know about how they redid it. They kind of did away with the original idea, kind of started from scratch. But this original idea, in my opinion, timeless. This is not tied to any particular era, any particular period of time. And you probably already know what it is. Dior Homme. This combination, this is masterful work, absolutely masterful work. I think it was Olivier Polge who may have done the original, and then Francois Demachy redid it, I think, in 2011. And I honestly haven't smelled the original 2005 version, but nonetheless, timeless DNA. This is something that a contemporary human could wear in 2050. I genuinely believe that. It's still incredible to me that they created this in the designer market. Dior isn't really giving us anything super brand new as of late. I hope they get back into that because they were really known for that for a long time. But in my opinion, this whole line, Dior Homme line, at least the ones dealing with the darker side of things, timeless. Okay, so those are my thoughts on timeless fragrances versus dated fragrances, and maybe trying to debunk the myth. Now, this is just my opinion. If you are upset or offended by it, then I guess that's just what it is, but we can obviously talk about it down in the comments below. If you want to help support me on this channel to create more content like this, more passionate, creative content that I love to do, and support me to have more time to do it, then you can go to my Patreon, join the Fresh Fam. There's a bunch of different ways you can support. In my opinion, comes with some really cool perks, some ways that we can get to know each other a little bit more closely. I can give you some more exclusive content and more exclusive looks into my kind of day-to-day life, and we can just learn more from each other. So please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link will be down below. The links to all the fragrances I've talked about will be down below. It's another way you can support the channel by purchasing from those links. They really do help me out. I just get a little bit of commission per link. So would really appreciate your support and hope you can check out the fragrances. What is your take on this idea? How do you feel about dated fragrances? How do you feel about timeless fragrances? How do they compare for you? If you like the video, please like the video. Really appreciate it. And once again, please subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to see more content like this, would love to have you back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.